swear to you, there was no way she could have been there twice. I had just blown past her on that dark stretch of highway, white dress, clinging to her like she'd walked through a lake, hair plastered to her face, eyes wide and unblinking. My tires screamed against the asphalt as I pushed the gas, desperate to leave her behind. But 5 minutes later, there she was again, standing on the shoulder like she'd been waiting for me. Same tilt of the head, same glassy stare. If I hadn't been gripping the wheel so tight, I might have thought I was dreaming, but I was awake, wide awake, and I knew then that I should have listened to the first sign. Keep driving. Do not stop. It was about 11:45 p.m. when I left Mike's place that night. We'd spent the evening hauling an old couch out of his basement, ordering pizza, and talking about football. It was the kind of small-town Friday night that feels safe, familiar. Mike offered me a beer for the road, but I don't drink and drive. I just wanted to get home. The route was simple: county road, then highway, then my driveway. I'd driven it 100 times. No streetlights out there, just the glow of your headlights and whatever's brave enough to cross in front of them. 5 miles in, I saw the first sign, a rough plank of wood nailed to a fence post. The paint almost faded away. The words were simple: keep driving, do not stop. I slowed a little, puzzled. Maybe it was some farmer's idea of a joke, or maybe it was for hitchhikers. Still, something about the jagged brushstrokes made my skin crawl. A few minutes later, another sign. This one was newer, the paint still bright, same words. My stomach tightened. That's when the radio went strange. One moment, I had classic rock playing. The next it dissolved into static. Buried under the crackle was something else, whispering, too faint to make out, but too clear to ignore. The road narrowed, the trees pressing in on both sides, branches clawing at each other in the wind. I leaned forward over the wheel and saw her. She stood just off the shoulder, her back to me, head slightly bowed. Her hair was long, dark, and tangled. Her dress was pale, clinging to her like she'd stepped out of a lake. "Ma'am?" I called, rolling the window down a few inches. She turned toward me, painfully slow, like her neck wasn't meant to move that way. When my headlights lit her face, I nearly hit the brakes. Her skin was pale to the point of gray, her eyes wide and glassy, like she was staring past me at something else entirely. Her lips moved, but I couldn't hear a sound. I leaned closer. Her voice was a shaky whisper, just loud enough to reach me over the hum of my engine. "Don't stop." The way she said it, it wasn't a threat. It was a warning, and before I could react, she stepped toward the car. I panicked and slammed my foot on the gas. My tires screamed against the road as I left her in the glow of my taillights. I didn't look back, not until 5 minutes later, when she was there again. I don't remember the next few minutes in detail, just the thud of my heart in my ears and the sound of the wind tearing past my side mirror. I kept checking the rearview mirror, but the highway behind me was empty. I told myself I'd stop at the next gas station. Not for fuel, I had half a tank, but just to get around people, lights, noise, anything to shake this off. 15 minutes later, I spotted a glowing sign in the distant Miller's Gas and Diner, open 24 hours. The parking lot was almost empty except for a dusty pickup and an old sedan with a missing hubcap. I pulled in, my tires crunching over gravel. Inside, the place smelled faintly of burnt coffee and fried onion. A man in a faded baseball cap stood behind the counter, flipping through a newspaper. He looked up as I came in. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, smiling just enough for me to see one crooked tooth. I tried to laugh it off. "Long drive, weird night, out on routes?" he asked, folding the paper. I froze. "Yeah, how'd you know?" His smile faded. "You saw her?" I didn't answer, but I guess my silence was enough. He leaned in a little, lowering his voice. "Don't talk to her. Don't stop for her. And if you see her twice, You turn around and take another road." My stomach knotted. "Why?" He shook his head like a man who's told the same story too many times. "She's been out there for years. Folks say she drowned in the quarry back in hitchhiked the road at night, wearing the same white dress she died in. Sometimes she's just standing there. Sometimes she tries to get in your car." I swallowed hard. "And if you stop?" He just stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, "You don't make it home." I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. I bought a bottle of water just to have an excuse to leave, and as I stepped back outside, I saw the pickup truck from the lot pulling out. The driver, an older man with a beard, looked right at me and gave the smallest shake of his head, like he knew I was about to do something stupid. I climbed into my car and sat there for a moment, my hands on the wheel. I could take the long way home, but it meant an extra hour on back roads, and I was already exhausted. I told myself it was just a story, an old local legend, meant to scare strangers. I started the engine and headed back onto Route 16. The first mile was quiet. No cars, no signs, just the steady hum of the tires against the asphalt. I started to relax. Then I saw movement ahead, right at the edge of my headlights. A shape, thin, still. I slowed, just enough to make it out. She was standing in the middle of the lane. Her hair dripped down her shoulder. Her arms hung loosely at her sides, palms facing backward like her joints didn't work right. Her eyes found mine, and this time her lips didn't move. She just raised one hand and pointed at me. I gripped the wheel tighter, heart hammering, and then before I could react, my headlights flickered. The road went black. For a second, I thought my car had died. Then the headlights snapped back on too bright, like someone had cranked them up, but the road ahead was empty. She was gone. My pulse slowed a little, but the hair on the back of my neck stayed on end. I pressed the gas, telling myself to just keep moving, not to think about it. That's when I noticed something in the passenger seat. It was wet, a dark spot spreading across the fabric, dripping onto the floor mat. My breath caught. I didn't look. I couldn't. I just stared straight ahead, knuckles white against the steering wheel. Then slowly, I felt it, cold air brushing against my cheek, like someone was leaning in close. I forced myself to glance sideways. Nothing, but the seatbelt was pulled tight, as if it was buckled around something invisible. I slammed on the brakes, the car fishtailing before coming to a stop in the middle of the road. The seatbelt snapped loose on its own. The passenger door creaked open an inch, though I hadn't touched it. The smell hit me next. Muddy water, like the bottom of a pond. I gagged and slammed the door shut, throwing the car into drive. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely keep the wheel straight. Up ahead I saw headlights coming toward me. Relief washed over me until the vehicle got closer. It was that same old sedan from the gas station, the one with the missing hubcap. It slowed as it passed, and through the rolled-down window I saw the driver's face, an elderly woman with skin like crumpled paper. She was grinning at me, wide and wrong, her eyes too pale. In the passenger seat beside her was the girl in white. She turned her head toward me as they passed, her mouth opening into an impossible silent scream. I didn't look back. I floored it, my tires spitting gravel as I tore down the highway. I took the next exit without even checking where it went. I just needed off Route 16. When I finally got home, I locked every door and window, sat in the dark with the TV on just for the noise, and tried to convince myself I was safe. But around 3 in the morning, I heard something outside, soft footsteps on wet pavement, and then a knock at my front door.